The most popular statement right now is nothing is selling. Nothing is selling in the villages. I've heard this from a couple of realtors' mouths. Of course, I've corrected them. Also, I've heard that from, as a general statement, from sellers. We've heard some of that with people feeling a little bit down about what's going on in the marketplace. So, that's a thing we're going to address today. We're going to address, what is selling in the villages. We're going to conquer that, and we're going to look at what's happening in the real estate market in the villages. Happy Friday the 13th. Um, Put in the chat if you actually believe in Friday the 13th. If you're superstitious, put that in the chat. I'm interested to see what people are thinking about Friday the 13th. I actually forgot until just a few seconds ago. So we're going to cover not Friday the 13th. We're going to cover whether things are selling, what is selling, what's the prognostication, early part, only a couple of weeks into the new year. So let's jump into it full blast. Let's see what's happening, give you a real live look. So, right now we're looking at sold, closed, meaning it's sold in the beginning part of this year. It's January 13th, 2 weeks in. And I don't count the first couple of days because look, it's New Year's, and then there's usually a couple of days people drank too much eggnog, so they haven't come out and started buying things yet. But really, what we're looking at here, we're seeing simply we're looking at 25 properties that have closed first 2 weeks of this year. All that is really all the activity from really Thanksgiving on, pretty much through middle of December. That's really what that indicates. And what we know is that middle of December, good part of December, things were really, really slow. Traffic was light, and now we're seeing a lot more traffic, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But 25 properties closed in the villages. Let's take a look at what they were specifically. Okay, so let's take a look at what exactly happened and blow this up for you. So, we're looking at, at the low end, we saw a couple of properties, a couple of mobile homes sell. We got 2 or 3 mobile homes that sold and closed the first couple of weeks of this year, looking at, from 145 to 240,000. That's kind of the range there. And in fact, one of our agents, Steve Savage, actually just listed something, I think 209, fixer-upper site-built home on the historic side, on the east side of 441, but still a little bit of a fixer-upper. So if you're an investor, I think an opportunity there for sure. But looking at the rest of it, if you look at the properties that sold from 145 all the way to 717, this gives you the range as to what's really happening in the marketplace. We're seeing several properties that sold under 300,000. A good part of them from 3 to 450 is basically what we're looking at in this particular marketplace. So to answer the question whether things are selling or not, they are, with a little bit of an asterisk. And also want to add, not only that, the highest property it sold was on Avalos for 1.1. Then another property sold in towards the southern sections of the villages, towards 466A to 44, built in 2015 for 850,000. So this one in Avalos, let's take a look at what that is. Closed. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Pretty sharp looking property. And this one is actually a St. Simon model. So if you're not familiar with that model, it's a very open, spacious plan. And it tells you that for 1.1, really it's probably 1.2. That's what that sold for on Avalos. And it looked like it was pretty much decked out, oversized lanai, koi pond, waterfall. That's a pretty good value. That property in all likelihood at least would have went for probably 1.3, 1.4 easily 12 months prior, like in the spring of 2022, would have gone for more money for sure. So it's kind of interesting when we're trying to figure out, okay, are prices going down or up or whatever? The average sales prices are staying pretty steady. And as I said before, we actually created a Q4, actually a summary of 2022 report. So if you're interested in getting that report, you can text me your email address. My number is 352-572-3796, 572-3796. I'll send you the full report. It's about 10 pages long that gives you all the ins and outs of what happened in 2022 and give you a little bit of an idea of where the market is going to. So very much an analytical study. So if you're just curious, let me know. And if you're you want to know where the market's going or you're thinking about buying or selling, this is going to be a good thing that you can actually use. Okay. So the other thing that we can look at, so to answer your question, yes, properties are selling, but I will tell you the asterisk is that, they're not selling, they didn't go under contract in droves. December was a relatively slowish month. We saw anywhere between, 20 to 30 properties go under contract, on a weekly basis in December, and actually more towards the lower 20s in December. So that's why we're seeing a lightish closing month in January. But also you should know, and a lot of people are surprised by this, January is typically the slowest or one of the lowest closing months of any year that we have here in the villages, right? That's a thing that most people don't realize. Like, really, January? Well, the reason being is obviously the holidays. Now, we are coming out of one of the hottest marketplaces in the history of the country, in the history of the villages. So that is also an impact on the marketplace. But I will tell you that January is typically one of the lowest selling months that you'll find. Now let's look at what's pending, because another way to look at this is, okay, all right, these are closed properties, but are people buying properties? Are people out there, buying? And take it a step further. Let's take it a step back rather. Are people looking? And the answer is yes, people are looking, and actually they're looking at a little bit higher numbers than what we saw in December. So more people are looking, and I have that information because obviously, being at Realty Executives, we have a lot of listings. I know what's happening. I know what's pending. I know what's taking place. So more activity on the traffic side. Open houses are definitely very busy. So there's a time, early part of fourth quarter, third quarter, and second quarter, we saw that maybe you might get 2 to 3 or 4. If you got 5 people at an open house, it was like, wow, 5 people, because this is something we would talk about on a weekly basis. Now we're seeing anywhere between 15 to 20. And if you have a really creative listing agent, you can get 20 to 40 if you're going to hold a party or an event or something like that. So 15, 20, 30 people at open house. And at Realty Executives, we probably have more open houses than anybody. Like, we really try to push things and really aggressively market properties. So many of our folks are having multiple properties or multiple open houses per property per week. That's our goal, is like really, really push it and be super aggressive as much as we can to get the most exposure, for the sellers, so they can feel, what, we are doing our job in marketing the property, and for buyers, to give buyers an opportunity to look at homes, to have them open as opposed to closed, and you can look at your leisure and, not feel stressed out. So, that's certainly, our aim. So let's look at what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what's happening on the pending side. So we saw 25 properties sold, closed, which is not a fabulous number. And I think when people are trying to ask, are properties selling, you look at that number like, well, that's nothing really to write home about. And I think it is early, and I think we're going to have better numbers obviously as the month goes on. But we're looking at now pending properties. We're basically pending properties, for those that don't know, when we put a home on the market and then someone looks at the property, we get traffic, and they put together an offer, we negotiate an offer, and you have a binding contract. You have a meeting of the minds. You have people that, okay, we agree, we're ready to go. Buyer and seller agrees to the price, and now we're going into the due diligence period, and now people are under contract. So over the last 6 months, if we're looking at pending properties, 104 that are currently pending in the villages, right? So currently pending in the villages, and that ranges from 77,000, if you can believe that, Dustin Drive, obviously a fixer-upper mobile home on the historic side, 784 square feet, under contract, $77,000. And then it goes all the way through the 300 mark, and then you're talking about 364, 439, and if we organize it by price, all the way up to 995, the highest pending property right now. Now, something that's changed in the Village is that we've got more than ever, we've got more properties that are going under contract over 500,000. And if you look at it, there are 22 properties in MLS right now that are over 500,000 that are under contract. And if you start looking at some of the maybe the rhyme or reason as to why they're going under, let's take a look at the days on market. So days on market is roughly, it's kind of a little bit of a across the board, but the first 25 properties, it's 25% of the properties right there are 5 days or newer, and then about half the properties are 20 days or newer, right? So 20 days or less on the market, and then properties that are 68 days, and now you're jumping up in days on market. So to give you an idea, out of the 104 properties, 50 of them were on the market for 20 days or less before they went under contract. That tells me something. That tells me that they were priced correctly, right? They figured out the price pretty quickly. Maybe they figured out the price during this, the market analysis, or maybe they didn't and they left it on the market for a week or a few days and said, wait a second, we're not getting the traffic, so let's lower the price. Let's get to the price that's going to cause people to come in, buyers to come in, because you got to make it attractive for buyers to come in, and obviously have open houses and that type of thing and advertise effectively like we do in the Daily Sun and social media and Zillow and Realtor.com and all, website and all of that, and price it correctly, and it looks like you're going to get sold. So that's really everything, which isn't anything that's dramatically surprising. But what is surprising is almost half of the properties, 50 out of 104, were 20 days or less. So use that. Know that that's kind of a time period you really want to get sold at that point, because when you're newer on the market, you have a better chance to making more money as a seller. And from the buyer standpoint, perhaps you're going to let's look at the flip side. Let's look at days on market. Some of the properties that were on the market a little bit longer on the market here, we're looking at 60 days. We've got probably 25%, looks like about 25-30% of the properties that went under contract were more than 60 days on the market. Now that's not a big it's a big revelation for many people that haven't studied the market. But for people that know this, over the years, 60 to 90 days would be very typical for many areas in the Villages. So don't be surprised by that. And I think for buyers, when you're looking at homes that have a longer day on market, I think that could be an opportunity to negotiate a little bit, right? I think you have less competition because buyers are thinking, well, it's been on the market long, there must be something wrong with it, and people tend to chase the shiniest penny. So there's a little bit of psychology there. Let me know if you have questions. You can put it in the chat if you have questions, but I'm noticing a pretty decent amount, 104 properties that actually went under contract over the last several months, and then are still under contract and haven't closed, right? That's the key number to really pay attention to. And price per square foot varies depending on what it is. Recently we did a study on this, and pretty much all of last year, especially when you look at the summary report that I did. So if you do want that, just text me at 352-572-3796, and I'll get that over to you. Send me your text me your email address, and I'll email it over to you. $250 per square foot was like the very the average for the Villages, where 2 years before COVID, it was definitely under $200 per square foot. So that tells you a lot. Looking for anything else that might be interesting. When we look at the 7-day numbers, the 7-day numbers are telling me that 37 new listings, 34 under contract, 1 price increase, 51 price decreases, which is a little bit more aggressive than what we've seen over the last several weeks. 18 closed over the last 7 days. So that tells us also out of the 25 we just saw that closed first 2 weeks, 18 have closed in the last 7 days. Just like I said, the first week is eggnog week. I think, only 7 closed the first week of January, and the entire village is MLS. And then 6 canceled properties, but 34 pending under contract, 37 new listings. That's very normal. And I've predicted, some people, like I've talked to a lot of people recently, and I said this is going to be a boring marketplace. It's going to be super boring. And we're like, no, not a boring marketplace. And what I meant by that is, like, boring is going to be like 2017, 2018, homes coming on the market. If they're priced really well, smell great, look great, they're going to sell really, really fast. If you've got a property that doesn't look fabulous, needs this, needs that, I don't want to do it because I want to let the buyers do it. Or if you're a buyer that's walking into a home like that, I think you've got an opportunity to actually negotiate, because you can do buyer's math and say, okay, well, I know it's, carpeting and blah, blah, blah. I need these 4 things to make it move-in ready for me. It's going to cost me $20,000. Then you're probably going to offer $30,000 less, which is a lesson for sellers that you're better off actually taking care of those things, make them really, really neutral. So that way buyers are attracted to it and they can make a move on it, and they'll pay top dollar, because I just show you the evidence on this. Look, if you're just joining us, go back on this video, and there's the evidence there to look at the case for really having a property that's ready to go and get it sold and under contract under 20 days. Not that we can, we're trying to give away homes and that's not the thing. It's really not. We're not in a hurry. We're just like whatever speed you're at. It's more of trying to get the maximum amount for the property. But on the flip side, for buyers that are coming into the marketplace, I would start looking at, obviously you're going to look at everything, but I would also look at the properties that have been on the market a little bit longer, because I think you could have some opportunities there. So to answer the question in a nutshell, just to wrap things up here, are things selling in the villages? The first week of the year, I would say, nothing's selling in the villages. We had 7 close and only a handful under contract. So if you walk into someone, at the rec center, at the mailbox, at the pool, although it's kind of nippy to be in the pool. Outside, it's kind of nippy, even though they're heated. I jump in the pool every morning. That's cold, but I'm a little bit weird. But my point is that whoever you're bumping into at whatever club you're at, whatever event you're at, have them watch my video here, because it's not guesswork. It's real info. So please share the video. That would be fabulous. Please like it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Happy Friday the 13th. Let me know your thoughts about Friday the 13th. What's your favorite movie? Is Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street? What's your favorite scary movie? How about that? That's what we'll put in there. Put in the chat. All right, we'll talk soon. Take care, everybody.